Hi, I'm Corliss Rose. Today I'm going to take you on a journey into the world of beaded mosaics for jewelry. You'll get to see a little bit of work by Two Roses and also other contemporary artists in the field. I'm also going to show you a short video on how to set your own seed beads for some of your own jewelry. I am one of a lifelong two-person design firm called Two Roses. We create with a multitude of media, and our artistic voice has many octaves. It's something that we consciously choose to do. Just as in classical development, our path requires tremendous amount of discipline. And it also has that extra what if kick that has opened the door to many adventurous opportunities. I have an ongoing creative curiosity with ancient mosaics. Examples of the art are frequently a priority with me during a museum visit. Many of the mosaic artisans of ancient Rome were sagacious in their preparation of tesserae. Realistic depictions of fruit, fish, and plants show that using very small pieces of mosaic achieved dimensionality. All of the tesserae in this piece are very small squares, and there's a great use of color against color. You see very little black outline in this piece. The Romans weren't limited to using square tiles. They also incorporated seashells that adorn mosaic scenes created for a dining room, a grotto, or a decorative column. This ancient practice of mixing materials in a mosaic composition was the influence that prompted me to look outside the box and experiment with other mosaic materials, which leads us to the world of high tech. John and I have always made a living with our art. Providing marketing and design service to clients opened up the door to many creative opportunities in the Two Roses studio. We had clients in aerospace, medical devices, and electronics who provided us with a treasure trove of exotic materials. Our studio life typically came up as part of conversation. It wasn't unusual to be invited to come down to the warehouse and cherry pick from items that were deemed as non-conforming. The circuit boards, microchips, and other exotic laboratory-grown materials were categorized as worthless by our clients. These rings are a progression from early Two Roses micro mosaics. The micro tesserae are now featured predominantly in each piece of work. We discovered that progression with a process can also present a unique set of challenges. There was a lot of early process development with our micro mosaics. We weren't exactly enamored with the idea of traditionally setting micro tesserae and then grouting. So we perfected the process of setting micro mosaic without the grout step. Here are two more of the Two Roses micro mosaic rings using the no grout process. Now seed beads have worked their way into our mosaic jewelry. Like the micro miniature computer chips, seed beads can be easily set as tesserae and incorporated with other materials. We found that beads respond differently than the microchips, and the special two-part epoxy glue formula would be just a little bit too liquid for such small beads. Once again, progression with a process presents a little bit of a challenge. This is one of our donut brooches. The bezel is constructed of gold polymer clay instead of metal. We had a stroke of luck with some maker friends who do large sculpture scale beaded mosaics. They were using a putty compound to hold their components and beads permanently in place. The product was Epoxy Sculpt. It's a two-part mixable epoxy-based putty that has a very reasonable tacky work time of around 45 minutes. It also cleans with soap and water, or you can use a baby wipe. The brooch here incorporates micro miniature computer chips with seed beads, along with pieces of Two Roses Corliss material. Here's an image of the Epoxy Sculpt product. I wanted to show this because many of you may not be familiar with it, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. Soon our pieces began to take on a completely new dimension. The concept of setting beads in a bezel was eclipsed by working dimensionally on curved surfaces. These pieces are created over a hollow form polymer clay base. A maker friend once told me early on to notice everything. The advice, in essence, told me to be aware of my surroundings and to learn how to observe. You can find ideas in places that seem most unlikely, places that often go unnoticed. So I'm continuing to learn to observe with a different kind of eye. This particular piece is called "The Clouds Conspired to Band Together." At this point, I want to show you some selected work from contemporary bead mosaic artists. I specifically want to give examples of design directions and solutions. These are things that can be sources of inspiration for you working in this medium. This is Mary Konda. Her work shows beautiful simplicity and flawless bead setting. I'm honoring Mary posthumously as she passed away around 7 years ago. Mary's perfectly spaced beads are a key element in the effectiveness of her simple designs. She also has a very inventive way to have small seed beads complement very large shards of material, as noted on the brooch on the very right-hand corner. Betsy Youngquist. Although her work is primarily sculptural, Betsy Youngquist has a wonderful knack for using beads of many different sizes. The beads also lie so perfectly next to one another. It's almost like she takes an actual string of beads and sets it, rather than setting the beads individually. Courtney Denise Lipson. Note the use of grout in her pieces. Lipson fabricates jewelry in silver and finishes her pieces with beaded mosaic. Her bracelets especially. They show a thoughtful relationship with the silver, stone, and mosaic. I was especially intrigued with her earrings, which are shown on the right. They utilize a gradation in her grout material. The beads on the outer edge of the earrings become almost invisible because of the wonderful color match. You get a hint of their presence with some of the lighter beads that she strategically places among them. Sundog mosaics. These examples are created using commercial pendant bezel settings of metal. They show so much imagination packed into a simple pendant bezel. The company specializes in mosaic jewelry and mosaic dog portraits. Duffy Brown. Sterling silver, copper, bronze, and found objects are the materials which she uses most frequently. Tile grout is often used in the mosaics to set the objects off. Note the use of the colored grout in the earrings on the right. Libby Mills. I know Libby from my polymer clay community. What drew me to her work was how she uses the various faces of a bead in her designs. The heart on the left shows beads set both on their sides as well as whole side up. This creates a completely different feel in the overall design. The bugle beads in the pearl are perfect for the radiating elements. The piece on the right incorporates extruded coils of polymer clay. Libby also does a really good job of mimicking the black seed beads used on the other side. She does this by shaping them out of polymer clay. The vertical muted blue line of beads provides an effective division, and it brings the entire composition together. Once again, different sides of the beads are used. The artist of this piece is unknown, but I think the title captures everything. In a sea of bling, symmetry makes it work. What more can you say? It's a beautiful piece. This piece is also from an unknown artist. It demonstrates a very clever use of beads combined with chips of stone, glass, and ceramic shards. The thoughtful use of ceramics gives the piece a narrative quality. Just imagine being in an English composition class and having the teacher ask you to write a story based on this piece. All of these artists demonstrate the versatility of beaded mosaic work. There's a tremendous amount of fertile ground at this end of the maker's pool. What I'm going to do now is show you a short video on how to set seed beads into a pendant bezel. This is the bezel bit that I'm going to be using for the demonstration. I've sanded it with 150 grit sandpaper, so we are all set and ready to go. What I'm going to do next is make sure that I have the beads ready. I'm using lavender Czechoslovakian beads. I'm also going to have my craft knife ready, and I'm going to have a baby one, because when I mix my Epoxy Sculpt, it's going to make my hands really, really good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take 3/4 of this mixed Epoxy Sculpt. It'll feel nice and tacky to the feel, and I'm going to put it in the bezel. I have some beads poured on my work surface, and I have a nice close-up here of my bezel with the set Epoxy Sculpt in it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set some beads. What I'm going to do with my knife is I'm going to prime my knife just a little bit with just a small amount of the Epoxy Sculpt. I'm going to grab a bead with my knife, and I'm going to set it in the far corner of my bezel. Oops. There we go. That's basically how it's set. Well, I'm going along here, and let me see if I can get a little more detail for you. But what I'm going to do here, I'm going to kind of clean off my knife, and I'm going to shore these up a little bit. Make sure they're straight and kind of clean them up. There you have it. Thank you for joining me today. I also want to thank the Bead Society of Orange County and the Bowers Museum for hosting my presentation. May you take a little bit of this with you today to help you on your creative journey. Until the next time, this is Corliss Rose for Two Roses.